Korea's new ambitious anti-corruption law goes into effect on September 28th after its most heatedly debated provisions were recently upheld by the Constitutional Court. Different sectors of society have different says about this Kimyoungnan law. What is it and how will things change? Our news feature tonight with Oh Sooyoung.
It got the constitutional go-ahead, but a number of sticking points remain for the so-called Kimyoungnan anti-corruption law. The law is underpinned by two fundamental pillars. The first is an anti-bribery provision enforcing limits and penalties on gifts or favours received by public workers. And the second outlines several illicit business practices, including informal requests made to civil servants. One major issue here is the inclusion of journalists and private school faculty in the provision banning bribery, which was originally intended for civil servants. Gifts or favours received by their spouses are also subject to the law, bringing the number of people affected to roughly 4 million. That's around 8% of the population. This has generated debate on whether the expanded range of targets is appropriate.
Journalists have a duty to inform the public. This requires meeting a lot of people, but now they will be reluctant to do so. This could undermine the freedom of the press, ultimately breaching the public's right to know. The same goes for educators and their constitutional right to academic freedom. Also, being subject to punishment for gifts received by one's spouse results in guilt by association if they're aware of the occurrence.
Some experts say that the impact won't stretch that far, and since the provision was ruled constitutional for the sake of the common good, it's best now to just work with it.
If journalists and educators are affected, for the public's sake, the provision should also cover lawyers who frequently make illicit requests to judges, as well as parties with greater public influence, like conglomerates, for instance.
Another contentious point is that practices some view as illicit were left out of the law, which could allow lawmakers to resume closed-door dealings.
Receiving civil complaints is exempted from the provision, providing a loophole for taking illicit requests. It should be removed from the law in the future. There are plenty of open and formal ways to receive complaints, instead of going through ambiguous channels.
Many experts also raise the need to introduce standards for conflicts of interest, taking a cue from countries like the US and Canada.
Preventing conflicts of interest was one of the pillars of the law, but it was pulled out during the legislative process, providing lawmakers with greater leeway.
It won't be easy to revise the Kimyoungnan law, so it would be best to make a separate one dealing with conflicts of interest.
Irrespective of the different viewpoints, most legal experts believe that the Act represents a positive step towards rooting out corruption, as Korea lags behind in OECD rankings when it comes to transparency. They say strict enforcement is needed and constant revisions should be made to allow Korea to catch up to the standards of other developed countries like the UK and Singapore, where the private sector is governed by extensive anti-graft measures. According to a recent poll, most Koreans agree that change must come. 1 in 3 approve of the incoming law, anticipating a cleaner, more transparent society.
To take Korean society to the next level, I think this is something we absolutely need.
Of course, amendments will be needed, but I'm glad the law will go ahead. I hope we can supplement the laws one by one.
I hope people will take pride in their duties regardless of profit and realize an upright, honest society.
Oh Sooyoung, Arirang News.